Hello everyone and welcome to Rhino Plays Production Line. This is a game about building a car factory. It's made by Positech Games. It's currently in early access. You may know Positive Games from Big Pharma, Democracy 3 or Shadowhand. It's early alpha, so it's still not even feature complete, but so far it's already a really good game. So let's get into it. We're gonna start a new game. You start with a bunch of factory options. When you first start the game, you start locked with just the small factory, which I think is one of the harder ones to do. Because it actually starts you with less cash than the other ones. Oh no, actually tight budget is a new one. I haven't seen that one before. But it starts you with barely enough cash to actually build a proper factory. Like, I prefer to start on the medium factory, which is what we'll be doing for this video. So let's get into it. Let's just go sandbox, play without any specific goal, but against AI competition. There are AI competitors. They're not quite visible in the game, but they're more like effects that are applied throughout the game. But we'll get to that when we get to it. So let's go. This is really a very deep game. It's very suited to optimizing things. It's very much about like high speed car production. It's really management intense. So we're gonna start off immediately pause the game because the AI, at least last time I played this, there has been an update since, immediately starts chugging out inventions. Alright, so here we have our factory. So you can see there's the green slots and the blue slots. The green slots are where we import parts and resources, and the blue spots are where we export actual finished cars. And you can see that we will have some space to expand our factory in the future. Well, how do you build a car? Step 1, you get your machines rolling. So right now the steps we have to go through to build a car is we start with assembling a chassis, we fit a body, we paint it, we fit an engine, we fit accessories, fit the electronics, check it for its quality, and export it. And we're gonna do this like in a row and then connect all the things up with a conveyor, and that's what's gonna happen. At the end we'll start with a bunch of parts and we'll end up with a finished car in the end, hopefully, assuming nothing goes to hell. So let's begin, and you can see that this is the outline of our chassis assembly. So we're gonna want to put this somewhere. Well, we're gonna want to work towards having our export here, preferably here, because we have two of these slots next together, which means that this won't be a bottleneck for a while. This game is all about solving bottlenecks in your production lines. So, we're gonna start with assembling the chassis, and what I think we're gonna do is we're gonna run like this, then that way, and then that way. And I hope my mouse shows on the recording. So we're gonna start with the chassis. R to rotate, by the way. And there we go. And this is our chassis assembly plant. And you'll notice that once we unpause the game, it's gonna... Oh, it's already complaining about something. No, never mind. And then we're gonna say you want to fit the body. And we're gonna want to paint it. Fit in the engine. You can see that it's color-coded dependent on like kind of the stages of the car, and we'll get to this in more detail in a second because there's a research component to this game which is really important. At that point we're almost on the other side of the factory. We're gonna, yeah, this is more or less facing that. We're gonna flip around, fit the accessories, fit the electronics, quality check, export the car. This is the most basic possible factory, and we're going to connect it all up with these here conveyors. Does that go one? No, it goes. Nice. So, here we go. Ready to start producing cars, right? Wrong. These things need components to actually do stuff. So, we're going to have to put in a resource importer and get a conveyor going, and then there we go. We're gonna have to connect all these things up. And it's... yeah, I think I'm just gonna do like one main route with branches coming out of that. And this will probably bite me in the ass later on, because these things are limited in the amount of parts they can order per second. Okay, so let us grab as well. No, actually, let's just run for now. Let's see what happens. See? Oh, look at the list. It's importing all these things. And this is quite an annoying thing, actually. It doesn't start with this guy. With supplying this guy first. In fact, it starts with supplying the engine. But why? I could produce, or at least start production, while these guys get their resources later. Oh, there we go. Look. We got two little robots, and they're assembling. That looks like the rear drive shaft, front drive shaft, or front wheels, and the actual axle, whatever the hell it's called. And there we go. So, we have our first car going, and it's gonna go to the next stage. And where they put on all the chassis components, and I really like how this game looks. And apparently we've run into insufficient resources again. Oh, there we go, we're continuing. Come on, car. Come on, come on, come on. And you can see that already we're bottlenecking really hard here. Like, this one is still working, and we've already got 2 new cars waiting to be, well, chassificated? Furnished? I don't know what the word is. So, let's have a look at that actually. Because here you can see we've got the chassis assembly. That takes 12 minutes and 52 seconds. You can see on the right there. It's got 8 employees and requires 800 units of power. Fitting the body takes 31 minutes. Oh. So basically we can run to this one almost 3 times before that one is finished even once. Painting takes another 34 minutes. Fitting the engine 22 minutes. The accessories 14 minutes, which is more in line with the chassis assembly. Oh, fitting the electronics is 2 minutes, it's barely anything. Quality check 5 minutes, and exporting takes 4 minutes. Huh. But here's where research comes in. So what we're gonna do is we're gonna build a couple of research offices. I said a couple. Hold shift to quickly do that. There we go. And we're gonna tell them to research something, specifically the process of body specialization. Because what this will let us do is split up the process of adding the body of the car into different steps. So for example, this will unlock the slot fit roof, fit doors, and fit body frame. So instead of doing that all in one spot, so every car has to wait until the next car is completely finished, we're going to be able to do that in 3 different spots. And you can see that fitting the body frame takes 20 minutes, but the roof and the doors only take 4 and 6 minutes. So we can just continue building our cars at the roof and the doors and have several body frame slots at the same time going. And this is why I left this much space between the slots, so that we could have some room to build these extra slots on the side, branch off and branch back in. So let's wait for research to finish, which is actually pretty speedy because I don't skimp on research things. I tend to fill these up fairly quickly, or do my best to fill these up fairly quickly. Okay, so now we have the body specialization. We're gonna choose the next research products, and remember that the painting took ages as well. So we're gonna find the paint specialization here in the list, and we're gonna research that as well. Now then, now we've unlocked the fit body frame, fit roof, and fit doors. So what we're gonna do, and note that, well, okay, you could just think, okay, well, we've got 1 chassis assembly, we could build 3 of these fit body slots. Look at the cost of that thing. It's 174,000. We don't have that money to build 3 of those. Okay, fair enough, we don't have the money for 3 fit body frame slots because they're expensive as shit, but we'll be taking out a loan for that. But this will save us 50,000 times 3 is 150,000 effectively. So what we're gonna do is we're just gonna go sideways, really. Or should we go like something like this? No, let's use this space over here. So we're gonna go that way. Yeah, like that. 3 of these running. We'll put... Yeah, we can get away with 1 roof fitting station then. And we'll fit the doors over here, I guess. Or actually, no, fit the doors over here. So we're gonna branch this off. And note that these converters are kinda dumb. They only send the car through to the next station, but they can't make any smart decisions about where they send it. They just find the next empty spot and go. Oh, and I've made a mistake. Whoops, 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 whoops. Demolish. Conveyor, you go like that. Like that. Like that. Like that. There we go. And now you can see that our new cars are... oh, I forget the important bit. They still need resources. Whoops. Resource order. And you can see that we're running really low on money. This game is ruthless when it comes to your money. The moment you hit 0 and something tries to take money from you, you game over. Unless you can take out a loan, which we can do in fact, which is what we're gonna do. And we're just gonna take the biggest loan because we will be needing the money. So you can see that these are now being supplied, and what we're actually going to do as well is get rid of this little block here. So this guy won't be supplied anymore. But we can still finish these two cars off and not waste the resources we already put into that. So here we go, and you can see that these guys are now being fit with bodies. Or at least these two are at the same time. And wait for it, wait for it. There we go, we've got one going, and the next one is queuing up. But you can see that the bottleneck is basically gone here. Now, the next bottleneck, okay, barring resources, will be the paint job, because painting takes 34 minutes if you do it all in one spot. But if we break down the paint again, we can see that the actual paint job only takes just under 4 minutes, whereas drying it takes 12 minutes. Ooh. So, what we're gonna do is, now that we've got the big two done, we're gonna actually start adding some features to our cars. Because right now our cars are very, very basic. They don't have anything in them. It's like the, what's it called, the Trabant cars of the East Germany. You know, it didn't have a speedometer. Oh no, it did have a speedometer. It didn't have a RPM or a fuel meter. You'd have to guess roughly how empty your tank was. They were very basic cars, but they were completely indestructible. So, well, let's start with something, you know, what's basic in a car. Central locking, or a heater. Let's start with a heater. So, you'll notice actually that we'll need to get a bunch of things for this. We unlock because this will unlock an upgrade at the slot fit fit controls and fit dashboard. And it requires us to pick the dashboard specialization. Shit. So first we're gonna have to figure out how to actually build a dashboard ourselves. So where do we find that? We find that under fit accessories. So let us research the accessories now, and then tell it to queue up the environmental features, and then the heater. And this guy is complaining about a lack of resources again. Okay, so this system of resources, actually it's a thing that happens in factories. It's called just-in-time delivery, where you have a very small stockpile next to whatever production slot you have, or your factory in general, and have very frequent deliveries of resources every day. Which has the issue that if your resources aren't quite reliable, you run into, oh, we're basically at halt with our production. And we can actually see this in our slots. If we click on them, we get the efficiency breakdown. Thank you, tutorial. Oh, well, there's the accessory specialization. I was saying thank you, tutorial. You can see that this slot, the fit engine, actually spends 2/3 of its time waiting for resources, and only spends 1/3 of its time running, so we'll have to figure that out. But first, you can see that now our cars are bottlenecking hard on the paint job here. Let's get our paint going. So, we're just gonna go one paint undercoat station, and... But we've got the space here. Let's actually keep going like that and then turn around for a future engine slots. So, let's say you go here. And then with a single paint job, we can actually do 3 of these undercoat stations, which is good. So we can just go 1. And then we can have another paint finish, which is just over 4 minutes, so we will bottleneck ever so slightly here should we fill this one's capacity out. Paint to finish. And let's keep 2 slots so we can, if should the future require, we could branch off over there or here. And I'm gonna run into a big problem here, which is crap. Yeah, mistakes from there. I was not going to be able to connect this back up to the engine station, so we're going to have to do our undercoat paint that slightly differently. And then paint to finish. Whoops, no, mistakes from there again. Crap. Dry to finish. There we go. So, conveyor branch over to here. Do that. Does it wait? This goes this way. These all up. And we get our engines done. So, and straight up remove these, so this station will no longer be supplied in the future. So we're gonna let these cars finish off because we will waste to get rid of them. And again, I forget the stockpiles. And you can notice actually we have another thingy here, an import slot, so let's put it here. There we go, and we're actually connect this up, so now these slots over here can be supplied by that one should this import slot be overtaxed, which it kind of is already. But first it's gonna order a pile of paint. Look at all the paint cans. Yeah, see, it's already started to order some different parts. Let's actually have a look. Like rear view mirrors, doors, and the like. And look, they've added like a basic grey blackish undercoat. It moves into the next station. It gets dried. It gets dried and it takes forever. And then we're at the engine slot where we have insufficient resources. And this is why this branching idea is really bad, but I figured because we're going to be starting with basically destroying everything we built, might as well. On that note, you can see that this slot is actually empty now. What we're going to do, hitting all the wrong buttons, that one. And we get a sizable refund on that. Get rid of that. And we've just unlocked the environmental features. Awesome. And we forgot to queue up the heater because we need the dashboard specialization as well. You can see that it's actually red out. So let's do that first, and then we'll do the queue. So now we can actually start splitting our accessory slot up. Or should we do the engine first? Because you can see that now we're bottlenecking hard on the engine slot, but it's because half the time is spent waiting for resources. So instead of researching the engines, what we're gonna do is just go, there we go, and let's hook this up. So now we've got a bit of a more of a network starting to form, and hopefully these guys will start to supply this one. No, what are you doing? No, I want you to get the engines. Oh, are you engines? Yes, there we go, finally. You can see actually that it imports a different variety of parts, and you can see that it's got the this one has 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 tasks. So yeah, this is a big one we should split up. So it's gonna start with fitting the powertrain, assuming it ever gets the resources for it. Fit the radiator, fit the exhaust. You can see it's waiting for exhausts again. Fit the brakes, fit the wheels, assuming it has wheels. So you can tell that this one, its stockpile really isn't big enough to even fit a single car. So we can do two things. Oh, look at the bottleneck, ow. We can do two things. We could build another one and hope that our stockpiles start working better, but you can see that these guys aren't really being taxed to capacity, otherwise there'd be a giant list over this of parts it's trying to import. What we're gonna do instead is we're gonna build a supply stockpile. Put that there. Please quit. I've played this game before. And we're gonna tell this one to... Well, we can either say, okay, I want you to have these parts lying around, whatever I select. Or we just say copy from slot. We say fit the engine, and now it'll more or less copy and paste what the engine has, except on a bigger scale. So it's gonna start asking for parts, and you can see that now this one is... No, none of them are actually text. Really harshly. See? And now this one won't have to wait that long for new parts to arrive. We've got a bit of a buffer to bridge the gap between cars. Or rather between imports of parts. And you can tell, meanwhile, our cars are being exported. And we'll have a closer look at that in the next episode. So for now, it's been 20 minutes. I'm gonna end the recording here, and I will see you in the next episode. Thank you for being here.